Hello, viewers and subscribers of my YouTube channel. Welcome back to another video on astrology. We have an extraordinary person with us today. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to speak to an internationally renowned astrologer and a great teacher. And not only that, he has been into so many things that is connected to Indian culture, Ayurveda, and so on. And more interesting than that is that he has been and he is a student of Sri K.N. Rao, who you all know as one of the greatest teachers of all times. And we are lucky to have with us Marc Boney. Welcome, sir. We are very glad that you're here.
I'm very glad to be here.
Interestingly, the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan of New Delhi honored Marc Boney with an award, Distinguished Service Award for the contributions to the advancement of Vedic astrology in the West. So, on behalf of all the astrology lovers, our astrology community, I take this opportunity to thank you for taking this subject across the world. And I'm glad that you have considered doing a 4-day astrology seminar, a course in Chennai. I thought then I should inform all my students and all those who are associated with me for a long time. I want them to take advantage of this course that is going to be held in Chennai. Marc Boney does not require any, he's well known already. He's got a huge fan following across the world. So it's not that we have to introduce him. So but what I would like to tell you is that for people like us who have been long time into astrology, we want to add some extra knowledge about one of the most difficult branch of astrology, the Gemini Sutras. It's so difficult to learn this without a one-to-one interaction with a guru or a teacher. And Marc Boney was lucky to have Sri K.N. Rao as his teacher. So why not join the course and take advantage of what he knows? That's what I'm thinking. So I request all the students who did some basic courses with me in Parashari astrology to take advantage when he is here. And I would also like to tell you that as the course is in Chennai, some of you who are outside of Chennai may fear missing the course, but Marc Boney has agreed to, first of all, record the entire session and also have it available online. Is that right, Mr. Boney?
Correct. So the course will be both in person at the Raintree Hotel in Chennai. However, I will mention that at this point, there are only 7 spots remaining for those who might want to attend in person. However, we're also going to live stream it, so anyone can participate remotely. There's no limitation on the number. And if the time's not convenient, everything is going to be also recorded. And for anyone who is registered for the course, they would get those recordings. The program, as you mentioned, is 4 days. It begins in October 20th, which is a Thursday, and will continue through that following Sunday, which would be the 23rd, right? I haven't been able to come to India since the pandemic, right?
Oh, okay.
So this is the first time I've been able to come back to India to teach, and I have many students in India. So I feel grateful that I have this opportunity. Prior to that, I'm going to actually be on a spiritual pilgrimage, visiting sacred sites in the Tamil Nadu area.
Oh, okay.
So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And then once I come back to Chennai, starting on the 20th, we'll be doing this program. I had a number of students in Chennai, people like Sandeep and Vinod, who actually were the organizers and said, Marc, would you teach a course while you're here? And I agreed to do that. So this is all coming together, and I'm thankful for you for having me on your channel and being able to announce that to your students.
So can you say a little bit about what can we expect from during the course?
Sure.
the 4-day course?
Yes. Well, the title of it is The Art and Science of Astrological Prediction, right?
Okay.
K.N. Rao was a fantastic predictor. He just, amazed people and amazed me
Okay.
with his ability to predict, to see events in your past, let you know what was happening in the present, and then also to predict. And so this is why I wanted to study with him. And I was very fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time with him, even individual time. And, he taught a certain approach to making predictions that combined both the Parashari system and the Vimshottari Dasha with the Jaimini system using Jaimini's sign-based dashas, particularly something called Chara Dasha, because say you're trying to time an event like marriage, okay, which is, of course, astrologers get asked this question all the time: when will I marry, right? Or when will I have a career rise? Or when will I have a child? Or when will I buy property? These are all questions that people ask astrologers very frequently. Well, if you could see that a certain time period showed a potential for marriage, both in the Parashari and the Jaimini system simultaneously, then you can feel more confident that you're seeing some event that would truly happen. He called this the composite technique, where you're coordinating the Vimshottari Dasha with the Jaimini Chara Dasha, because you mentioned it's like, having an equation where you can solve in two different ways, right? But come to the same conclusion
Exactly.
using two different methods. So coordinating the two becomes very powerful in terms of being able to predict. So I've written a book called Predicting Major Life Events, and it talks about 8 different events that people typically ask about, right? And showing over and over again how, using the techniques that I learned from him, I was able to predict these events. I was fortunate enough to be able to predict these events. So this is what I'm going to be teaching in the course. Now, the emphasis will be using Parashari Jyotish, but the emphasis will actually be on how these events can be seen in the Jaimini system. Now, you mentioned that the Jaimini system, it can be considered difficult in one sense, but one thing that I always really appreciated about it is the way in which events can come out actually in a very simple way without doing a lot of analysis, right? And with your permission, if I've made a co-host, I'd like to share my screen and give viewers an idea of what I'm saying about that. Is that possible? Can I share screen?
Yes, 1 minute. Just kindly hold on. I'll give you the option. Yes, you are now the co-host. Sorry, I forgot
No,
to. Yes.
no, that's okay.
Yes.
So you can let me know when my program with a chart appears, okay?
Oh, yes, surely. Yeah, it is on. Yeah, so
I'm showing a chart of a gentleman. The Indians may not your Indian students may not recognize this name, but he's a very big celebrity in the United States. He's a very famous movie star,
movie star.
Director, producer, very award-winning. He's just had an exceptional career this way, okay?
Okay.
And so in the Jaimini system, we have these things called special karakas based on the degrees of planets, right? And
Yes.
so, and they're unique to every chart because a person's what's called their Atma Karaka, which is the planet with the highest degrees, could be different in everybody's chart. So, in this chart, for example, if you look at Mercury, right next to it is the abbreviation AK, which stands for Atma Karaka, right?
Yes.
Now, if you look over in Capricorn, which is his 12th house, you can see that there are 3 grahas, 3 planets, one of whom is the DK. DK stands for Dharakaraka, or indicator of spouse.
Hmm.
MK stands for Matrikaraka, which of course means the indicator of mother. But the thing that K.N. Rao taught us was that these karakas pertain to the first 7 houses of the horoscope. So, of course, the 4th house pertains to mother, but the MK, the Jaimini MK, doesn't just pertain to mother, but all the indications of the 4th house, which includes things like home and property. All right.
Okay.
So the simple idea in Jaimini, now remember that the dashas are sign based. We're used to in Parashari for having planetary periods. At any one time, a person is running the period of some planet. In the Jyotisha system, as you know, the dashas are signs, so at any one time, the person could be running the period of some sign, right?
Correct.
So you can, if you look down towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see that you see both his Vimshotri dasha sequence and then also the Char dasha sequence. And you can see back in 2011, he was age 50 at the time. He moved into his Capricorn major period.
Dasha.
So since it contains the DK, which is his moon, and again, DK stands for Dharakaraka, indicator of spouse, this shows that this is a period that's very eligible for bringing him marriage. Now, he was something of what's called here in the U.S. a confirmed bachelor, right? He had been involved with a number of different women, but he never married and didn't seem to have an inclination to marry. But after moving into this period, he met a woman and he married during this period. And so when I say that sometimes events can come out in a very simple way in the Jyotisha system, this is what I'm referring to. You can be running the sign of containing the DK, and this can show a time when you would marry, right? Now, what also happened, the 12th house is what? A house having to do with foreign countries, foreign places, faraway places, right?
Correct.
Well, he actually met a woman who's from a foreign country. This woman that he married was from Morocco. He has his DK, the indicator of spouse, in the sign of foreign countries. This can be an indication that he would marry a foreigner during this time, which he did.
Okay.
And since he's married her, he's from the U.S. He was born in the U.S. He's lived in the U.S. most of his life, but they now live together in England, having purchased property there. So remember my mentioning that the MK, the planet with the fourth highest degrees, pertains to all the indications of the fourth house, one of which is home and property. So the fact that he was running his Capricorn period containing his MK, you could predict that he would purchase property at this time. Not only that it might be property in a foreign country because his MK is in the 12th house. Is it clear?
Very clear.
Now, in Gemini, we don't just use planets in terms of their special Karaka indication, but we also use their natural significations. So, of course, one of the natural significations of Jupiter is it's the Putra Karaka, right? It's the indicator of children.
Children.
So the fact that he's he married, and then subsequently, what happened? He and his wife had twins. So he now has two children. And again, this was predictable that Capricorn as a major period could give this result simply because it contains Jupiter, right?
Yes.
But now let me show you another very clear example of that with regards to how sometimes events come out in a very simple way, and you can predict something like childbirth this way. I would think everyone in the audience is familiar with Prince Harry of England, right? One of the sons of now King Charles, now that the Queen Elizabeth has passed away. Yes. So I'm bringing up, and I'll show you how I made a prediction on the chart of Prince Harry that came out. So when I saw that he had married, I decided to, since I had both of their charts,
so in the class, in our 4-day session, you will be always showing both the South Indian and the North Indian chart together, right?
Always.
Okay, thank you.
Always, because most of the world actually looks at North Indian style charts. Because I was a student of K. and Rouse, and he always used the South Indian style chart. Okay. This is the chart that I can use both, of course, but okay. I favor the South, and some people favor South Indian. So what I was about to talk about is that when I saw that Prince Harry married back in 2018, and I had both his chart and the chart of his wife, I decided to see if I could predict when they might have children. So you can see that, back in 2000 and towards the end of his Libra major period, right? He married, but then this period ran up until September of 2019. And actually, in a period from October 2018 till September 2019, he was running the major period of Libra and the sub period of Libra. You see that?
Yes.
Look in Libra.
Okay.
It contains Saturn, an exalted Saturn, but which Karaka is it?
Children.
It's the PK.
Yes.
Very obvious to me that in this Libra period would give him a child, and I predicted mid-year 2019 based on this. But then I was also coordinating this with the Vimshotri Dasha. I'm not showing that here because I'm focusing on the Jaimini system. Okay. But I was coordinating the two, and in coordinating the two along with some transits conditions, I predicted mid-year 2019, and they had their first son, Prince Archie, born in May of 2019. But the reason I'm showing this example is I'm showing you an example of how sometimes events can come out in a very easy and predictable way just by seeing a sign containing a particular karaka and seeing that some event pertaining to that karaka could come out at that time, right?
Okay.
So, I hope this is clear enough. But
yes.
Now, one thing, and I'm sure you're aware of this, K.N. Rao used the planet with the second highest degrees, referred to as the Amadya Karaka, AMK. He used this as a Amadya Karaka, it refers to someone who is in the court of a king, a very important person, right?
Maybe minister?
Right, a minister and so on. And what K.N. Rao discovered was that you can use this to see when a person themselves becomes a more important person. That is, when they might experience career-wise, right? When they might experience a rise in their career. And especially if this AMK is in a good condition, it's got a good dignity, and if it's also forming, you might say, Jaimini Raja yogas with other planets. So I want to show an example of a very simple and easy prediction I made using this idea. And again, not a lot of analysis was involved. It didn't take very long. In fact, it was kind of obvious just at a glance. And this is why I mean how sometimes events can come out in a very simple way in the Jaimini system. I'm going to now show you the chart here of someone who was a good friend of mine from my college days. And back in 2013, we were having dinner together, and I saw that he was about to move into his Virgo major period, okay? So you can see that Virgo has three different planets that are three different karakas, one of whom is the AMK. It's the sun, right? That's the abbreviation AM stands for Amatya Karaka. So now let me go a little deeper and say that one of the best Jaimini Raja yogas are when the AMK is combining with the AK, the planet with the highest degrees is combining. And in Jaimini, the signs are Rashi Dristi, sign aspects, not planetary aspects, and all the signs that in the dual Rashis, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, any planets in those signs are going to be aspecting each other. So in other words, Jupiter over there in Pisces is going to be making a Rashi Dristi, a sign aspect to all the planets in Virgo. And this combination of the AMK and the AK is one of the best Jaimini Raja yogas. Combine that with an exalted PK, adds more Jaimini Raja yoga giving combinations. So I saw he was going to be moving into his Virgo period, and this clearly showed the potential for a very significant career rise. And I'll not bore everyone with the details, but as it turns out, he ended up getting the job of a vice president of human resources for $1 billion company. Really, really substantial position during this time. And I want to show everyone the sub-period I predicted it would happen in. So you can see that Virgo, when he runs Sagittarius, if you use Sagittarius as a lagna, Virgo becomes the 10th from there. You see? If you use Sagittarius as if it's the first house, these Jaimini Raja yogas, including the AMK, fall in the 10th house from there. I actually saw this combination as being one that could give him a great career rise. And it just really took a matter of seconds to see this. And I told him that this period and sub-period would bring this, and it did. So again, this is what I mean. Sometimes events can come out very simply in the Gemini period. Now, I mentioned that the planet with the fourth highest degrees, which is the MK, stands for all the indications of the fourth house, one of which would also be, of course, vehicles, right? Let me show you this case, a prediction I made. So if you look at this chart now, you can see that this person is currently running their Cancer major period, right? So what karaka does Cancer contain? You know, if somehow I think I accidentally muted you. Could you unmute yourself?
Okay. The Matrukaraka.
Matrakaraka, right?
MK. The fourth, the fourth.
Indicating all the indications of the fourth house.
Well, yes.
One of which I mentioned is property, but also then it would also mean vehicles, right? Now, one thing I'll mention here is that the Moon-Venus combination, when they are conjunct, or when they are making a Rashi Drishti sign aspect with each other, this is both a Gemini Raja Yoga and a Dan Yoga. And you'll see that it exists in this chart because fixed signs aspect movable signs, except for the one next to them. So Cancer here gets the Rashi Drishti of Venus over in Aquarius, forming this Moon-Venus combination, which is again both the Gemini Raja Yoga and Dan Yoga combination for wealth. It's also given in a combination in the Gemini Sutras for giving people luxury vehicles.
Okay.
So what happened in the Cancer period? This is the chart of a woman, a very successful lawyer, who purchased two vehicles, an SUV and a sedan, luxury vehicles, Mercedes, in this Cancer major period. Again, a very simple prediction, just based on the idea. Now, in this case, the moon is in a good condition, right? It's a very, very bright moon. In fact, it's a completely full moon. It's also in its own sign. And of course, Venus also has a source of strength because it's in an exchange with Saturn, which makes any planet give its results almost like it's in its own sign. So this is a high quality Moon Venus, Raja and Dan Yoga that involves her MK that has given her during this period two luxury vehicles, very predictable based on these principles that I'm talking about. Right?
Fantastic.
Now, let me show you an unfavorable example, because among the Karakas, there's also the GK, right? The planet with the sixth highest degrees, which therefore carries all the indications of the sixth house, which would be things like illness and disease, right?
Oh.
So let me show you a case that I was asked to comment on, or I was asked to give input about, that involves this GK. Just a moment, I need to get up the right chart here. Okay. And really, it's kind of a sad case, but, it's a fact of life that sometimes people get ill and sometimes they even pass away as a result of their illness, right?
Yes.
So if you look down at the Chara Dasha, you'll see that in 2016, this person entered their Aries major period, right? What karaka does Aries contain, the sign Aries contain? What does it contain? Oh, unfortunately, I think I muted you.
Nyati karaka.
Right. So this contains, and then which lord of the birth chart is Venus? What sign?
It is the lord of the sixth again, once again. It's the lord of the sixth.
So it's both the lord of the sixth and it's also the GK. Now, that alone wouldn't necessarily bring such a dangerous period to the health, but then it has additional afflictions. Again, movable Rashis are aspected by the fixed Rashis except for the one next to him. So all those planets in Aquarius, which contain the two worst malefics, Mars and Saturn, are aspecting onto this Venus as the GK. Do you see?
Correct.
Now, the DK I said is an indicator of spouse and can be used to time marriage, but of course, being like the seventh lord, it also plays the role of Maraka in the Jaimini system. Okay, so not only is this GK getting this malefic influence, but it's also getting aspected by Saturn as the Dharakaraka playing the role of Maraka. This person was experiencing some symptoms. A friend of theirs asked me to look at their chart to see what I saw and whether I thought, what was going on. But when I saw this, I said, well, this person should go get some very thorough tests and examination by doctors, because I think there could be the possibility that there's something serious going on. Okay. Now, unfortunately, when that happened, it was discovered she had stage 4 cancer. Right?
Okay.
And she did actually end up passing away during this time. Now, I want to be quick to say that just because a person's running the major period of a sign containing their GK doesn't mean that they're going to get ill and die during that period, right? There's a lot that has to be going on additionally for a period to give that serious of a result when it's containing the GK. But again, it's just a simple example of when a person runs a sign containing a particular karaka, then whatever are the indications of that karaka, that can come out at that time, right?
Yes.
So this is again what I mean by how sometimes events can come out in a very, very simple way. Now, you and I were talking about there's a special lagna that's utilized in the Jaimini system,
yes,
called the Karakamsha lagna.
Yes.
And you and I were discussing about whether that's applicable in the birth chart or whether that's applicable in Navamsha, and how K and Rao's approach was to use that as a lagna in Navamsha as well, right? I might use that as a lagna, not in this just the Navamsha, but in the birth chart as well.
Correct.
So now I'm not a big fan of this individual, but everyone in the world knows that at one point back in 2016, Donald Trump became the president of the United States, right?
Yes.
And so I'm going to pull up his chart and show how a combination in his chart that could indicate him obtaining such a high status in life and at a particular time, and seeing this from the Karakamsha lagna. So how do we determine the Karakamsha lagna? We take the planet with the highest degrees, which in this chart, as you can see, if you look at the sun, is Atmakaraka is the sun at 29 degrees, 49 minutes. It becomes the planet with the highest degrees. If you see where that planet goes in Navamsha, we'll see it goes to Virgo, okay?
Yes. Yes.
So Virgo becomes his Karakamsha lagna, right? So if you use Virgo as a lagna, you'll see the angles there only have natural benefics, Jupiter, of course, and then also Mercury. Very strong as the first and 10th lord in the 10th house.
Yes.
Well, there's a statement there's a chapter in the Prashahora on the effects of planets from Karakamsha lagna, and you'll see a verse there that says when there's strong natural benefics only in the lagna, only in the angle houses 1, 4, 7, and 10 from the Karakamsha lagna, a person becomes a king. And there's another one that says, there's another Jaimini Sutra that says, when Mercury is in the 10th house, in strength, receiving the aspect of a natural benefic, then the person will become very, very successful in whatever is their line of endeavor, whatever is their profession, okay? Now, some of you may be aware that Donald Trump's first success came as a real estate developer, right?
Yes.
So again, what karaka would be significant that way related to property? What karaka, what Jaimini karaka would we look at? Of course, we would look at the MK, right?
Correct.
So we'd see here that from Virgo, it being the Karakamsha lagna, it has this combination of Mercury in strength getting then the Rashi Drishti from a natural benefic, that would be Jupiter, but also Mercury as the MK, very successful in his line of work. His line of work before he got into politics was as a real estate developer. And you can see how his chart clearly shows that potential using the Karakamsha Lagna. Is it clear?
Correct. Yes. So we have taken the Karakamsha Lagna and placed it over in the D1 chart, right? And not into a Navamsha chart.
Well, we can apply it in both, but here I'm showing the application from the birth chart, right?
Okay.
Now, people in India may not know this, but he's now facing all kinds of legal difficulties. He's fighting 8 different lawsuits, potentially criminal and civil, right?
Okay.
So this is very much in the news here in the U.S. I don't know if it's in the news in India, but it's very much going on. I mentioned that the GK is the planet that signifies all the indications of the 6th house, one of which is litigation, right?
Enemies.
One of which is the courts, also debt. He's carrying a tremendous amount of debt. Well, if you look at what period he's currently running, as of 2018, he's running his Cancer period. It's the 12th house of the horoscope, right?
Yes.
It contains the GK, who's also under the influence of another natural malefic, Saturn in this case, right? Who happens to be the 6th lord of the birth chart.
Okay.
So do you see how clearly this indicates that this would be a period where he would be fighting all this litigation? And it does hold the danger of even putting him in prison if he's convicted of the criminal charges. I would be surprised if that actually happens, but the danger is there. And there's also danger to his health, because again, it's a sign containing the GK. It's afflicted by a natural malefic Saturn, who happens to be a Marika, 7th lord and the sixth lord of disease. And it's just also the Darakaraka, who plays the role of Marika. And it's a long period. He runs this period until 2026. He's now in his 70s. So it wouldn't be surprising if he developed some health difficulties. Now, he did have COVID during this time, right? But of course, he recovered from that. He didn't die from it. But it's a dangerous period, both in terms of litigation and of health. And you can see how, using these principles of Jaimini that I've been describing, that it's very easy to draw those astrological conclusions just simply based on the sign he's running and the karakas that are in that sign. Yes?
Yes.
Right. So this is what I really grew to appreciate about the Jaimini system. I've made so many predictions based on just this simple principle. So let me bring up a chart that I've been making predictions on for 27 years. So almost since I first started learning the Jaimini system from K and Rao. Let me get the chart up here. And the first thing I predicted for this person was career rise. And you can see how obvious that prediction was once I described the case here. Hold on. Still getting the chart up. Here it is. So who's the Amatya Karaka? Who's the AMK in this chart?
Oh, yes. Amatya Karaka is moon.
Do you see any source of strength for it?
It is aspected by Jupiter.
That's an influence. What's a source of strength? What happens to the moon in the 4th house? Of course, it gets directional strength, right?
Directional strength, yeah. Digbala.
Or Digbala. And what's happening between the moon in the birth chart and Navamsha?
The moon. Oh, Vargotama. Okay, I missed that. Yes.
Yeah. So the moon's very strong. Very strong. Okay. And it's the AMK. Now, I mentioned to you that one of the best Jaimini Raja Yogas was a combination of the AK and the AMK.
Okay.
You can see that her AK Saturn is also Vargotama.
Oh, it's repeated 2 times, yes.
Well, both the moon and the Saturn are Vargotama. and they make a Rashi Drishti with each other, because I said all the planets in the dual Rashis are going to influence and aspect each other. So in other words, from a static potential point of view, there's a very good Jaimini Raja Yoga. Now, you also heard me mention that when the Moon and Venus are in a mutual Rashi Drishti or conjunct, this also is both a Raja and Dan Yoga. So that also exists in this chart. Do you see?
Yes.
So when I first met this person, they were someone who was a classical violinist. All right, they were a classical musician. They had graduated from a very good school. They had a master's degree in violin performance, and they had the ambition not just being a violinist in some orchestra, but they wanted to be a violin soloist, which is a much more difficult kind of career goal. All right, and they weren't being very successful. But when I first met this person, I saw that they had moved into their Sagittarius period, containing the AMK. Remember the principle that when you run the sign containing the AMK, especially it's involved in good Jaimini Raja yogas, especially if the planet has strength, you can predict career rise based on this.
Yes.
Okay. So again, to make a long story short, she got an invitation to go to Germany to be the violin soloist of a small orchestra there. She started giving concerts aimed at teaching children about classical music that became very popular. She became something of a minor celebrity, appearing on TV and getting a lot of media coverage. So she had this very precipitous career rise during this time. Now, in this case, I'm going to show how I coordinated her running the Sagittarius period with a Vimshotri Dasha. You can see that she was running Rahu at the time. And Rahu here gives what's called a nodal Raja Yoga. You know that when Rahu is in the angles and it's with trine lords, then it can give Raja Yoga, because that's like an angle trine combination. So you can see Rahu here is with a Vargotama fifth lord and an exalted ninth lord.
Correct.
Okay. So I saw, and here's now I start to refine. I saw when she was going to run Rahu Saturn that this was going to overlap with the major period of Sagittarius and the sub period of Pisces. Okay.
Okay.
So if you use Pisces, remember the Raja yogas are happening between Sagittarius and Pisces, So I predicted that when he'd run Rahu Saturn overlapping with Sagittarius Pisces. Now I'm coordinating the two systems. I told her this would be a real career peak for her in terms of her professional success. And it happened.
Wow.
It happened. Then I predicted her marriage. In Capricorn Scorpio. Let me explain why. So if you look in Navamsha and you use Capricorn as if it was the first house, her Dharakaraka Mars would fall in the seventh house from there.
Okay.
Use Capricorn, right? And then if you go back to the Rashi, you can see that Scorpio contains the DK. So I predicted in Capricorn from where the DK would fall seventh in Navamsha in the sub-period of Scorpio, where DK is in the birth chart. I predicted she would marry, and it came out. I was coordinating this with Rahu Ketu in Vimshotri, and of course, Rahu Ketu are along the 1-7 axis with Jupiter, the seventh lord.
Correct.
So seeing these two periods together clearly showed a time when she could marry, and it proved correct.
Wow.
But which house of the horoscope is Capricorn?
It is the fifth.
Which karaka does it contain?
Children.
So when she runs Capricorn, what would you predict?
Children also can be born.
Of course.
Yes.
And I predicted the birth of her two children as a result of her running the Capricorn period and then focusing on subperiods.
Can we use the Putra Karaka for even attaining kingly positions, promotion in job?
Well, if it's involved in a Jaimini Raja Yoga.
Okay.
But the fifth house means more than just children.
Correct. It's a reward.
One of the things that fit in the Jaimini system, the fifth house is taken for education achievement.
Okay.
Right? And so the planet with the fifth highest degrees, the PK, can also be used for educational achievement, particularly if it's strong.
Okay.
And we mentioned Jaimini Sutras and the effects of planets from Karakamsha Lagna. If you don't mind, I'm just going to use my own chart
Wow.
to
We're all
illustrate.
we're all glad to see it. What made you? I also heard that you had a story to say that how we can easily see that you are destined to study Jaimini Sutras because you received those two books long time before you even started, before you met Sri K.N. Rao.
Well, I will tell that story, but let me show this first, okay?
Okay.
So now you can see that I have Jupiter strong in its own sign, and it happens to also be the PK,
Yes.
okay? Now, we have to calculate the Karakamsha Lagna. My moon is my Atmakaraka. You'll see that it goes to Scorpio in Navamsh.
Yes.
So Scorpio, everybody should put mentally they should make Scorpio the ascendant mentally, right?
Yes.
What becomes the fifth house from there?
Minarashi, that is Pisces.
Pisces. So there's a Jaimini Sutra that says when a strong Jupiter goes to the fifth house from the Karakamsha Lagna, the person will be an author. Yes. They'll study Veda and Vedanga. Of course, Vedanga, Jyotisha is a limit of the Vedas. So when Jupiter also relates to literature. When K.N. Rao looked at my birth chart and he saw this strong Jupiter in the fifth house from Karakamsha Lagna, he said you had a good classical education, which I did, and that you studied literature, which I did. That was my undergraduate major. But what I'm showing here is that when I ran my Pisces period from age 29 to 41, this is when I went back to graduate school and got my master's degree in psychology. So what I'm showing here is how the activation of a sign containing the PK didn't bring children. That could have been one of the things that it brought. But what it brought was an advanced educational degree, because the PK represents all indications of the fifth house, one of which in the Jaimini system is education, right?
Very good.
So, but I will also tell you that, what amazed me about K.N. Rao was the way in which he could see events in your past. And he would always begin a consultation by walking you through and asking you about certain periods in your life, sometimes just telling you or asking the question, did you get a big job? Did you get a big promotion during this time? This is what he asked me. And he asked me about this when I was running my Aries period. Now, you can see that my Aries period contains the AMK.
Yes.
Also an exalted sun, and because the AK moon aspects it, there's that AK AMK Raja Yoga that gets activated when I run my Aries period, okay?
Yes.
Now come to the sub-period of Cancer. Use Cancer as a lagna. All these planets and this AK AMK Raja Yoga is now in the 10th house from there. Do you see?
Exactly.
He asked me, he said, what big job did you get between 1994 and 1995? I was amazed. This is when I became the vice president of an international consulting company, the San Diego office. I got a big promotion, a big position during that time.
Wow.
You see?
Okay.
So this is what, so let me tell, I think viewers might enjoy the story of my first meeting K.N. Rao and what happened, right?
We are looking forward to hearing that from you.
So in November of 1993, David Frawley, a big Vedic scholar, organized the second international symposium on Vedic astrology in Northern California that I was attending. He had invited K.N. Rao as the chief guest and speaker at that international symposium. So after after K.N. Rao gave his inaugural speech, I was surprised. He said, I'm going to be going up to my hotel room. People are invited to join me there to discuss Jyotish. So I was a little late in getting there, and when I went to the room was completely filled with people. There was only a space right in front of him, and I climbed over people to get there. They weren't too happy with me, but I sat down in front of him, and after a while, he looked at me and said, do you know your horoscope? So I started to hand him a copy of my birth chart, And he said, no, just dictate. So I started telling him what my lagna was, what my planets were, what their degrees were. And he was just holding this in his mind mentally, right? Was not even seeing the chart on paper. He was holding it in his mind. And when I finished that, he looked at me and said, you are the only son of your parents, but you have 4 or 5 sisters. Absolutely true. I'm the only son and I have 5 sisters.
Oh.
Then he said, you had a good classical education. I told you this previously, studied literature. Absolutely correct. And he went on like that. He went on like this. I was absolutely amazed. And the next day, he was teaching a workshop on how to time the birth of children. He had written a book called Planets and Children. You've probably seen this book, right? In it are techniques for timing the birth of children that he had learned from his mother, who was something of an expert in this area, right? So I took this workshop, came back to my home in San Diego, and somehow word got out among my friends that I had just learned how to do this. Well, I got a call from a woman who had been trying to unsuccessfully to get pregnant and wanted to know if I would work on her chart and maybe make a prediction of if and when she would get pregnant, conceive, and give birth to a child. So I told her I was new at this, and but I would give it a try based on what I learned. And to make a long story short, I predicted she would get pregnant that September and give birth in June, which turned out to be correct. Might have been beginner's luck, right?
Okay.
But it turned out to be correct. So this was my first prediction that I'd ever made using the techniques that Kay and Rao had taught me. And so that was my first experience of Kay and Rao. And, he just astonished me when I first consulted with him because he could see events in my past. He talked about the present and then made some predictions about my future that came out very correct. So he stopped coming to the U.S. And so I started going to India. And way back in 1996, I spent about 6 weeks with him individually. I was living in the same condominium complex where he was. I was with him every day. But then towards the end of that time, he took me on a pilgrimage to places like Vrindavan. He was very much a Vaishnava, devotee of Krishna. And it was one of the best experiences of my life to travel with him just individually and just sort of continuing to discuss Jyotish. And he was teaching me things, and it was a very, very special experience and very special time in my life. So I was incredibly blessed to have this relationship with him and to learn from him. Of course, so much of what I learned from him, and I'm sure this has been true for you as well, is just by reading his books.
Yes.
Reading his books. And that's one thing that I appreciated about him. Every time he came to the U.S. and was teaching, he would leave behind a book where you could repeat the lesson, right?
Yes.
So I decided that when I was going to teach and follow in his footsteps, this is what I would do. So this course that's coming up in Chennai, anybody who participates in the course will actually get the PDF file of 4 of books that I've written.
Wow.
One book called The Essentials of Jaimini, another book called The Jewels of Jaimini, a book called Predicting Major Life Events, and also a book on predicting with the conditional nakshatra-based dashas. So anybody who participates in this program in Chennai will get the PDF file, not hard copies, but the PDF file of all 4 of these books. Because I always like to then leave behind this written instructional material that then people can repeat the lessons. Because, they may follow along with something I'm talking about in the class, but you don't always remember it, right?
Exactly.
You have to repeat the lesson to make the knowledge steadfast.
Very good.
So this is what I had to share with you and your audience this morning. Again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you on your channel and be able to talk about the course in Chennai.
What I'll do is in the description section of this video, I will place the link where you have provided all the information that they need. And I also give them my email ID, and also maybe I'll create a WhatsApp group just for the Chennai, this program. So if people want to contact me directly, they can send messages. So I'll also participate along with Vinod and helping Marc.
That'd be wonderful.
We are all looking towards seeing you in person, and we are, I think, at least right now, we are the most luckiest one to see you directly in Chennai, and I'm sure we are going to have a wonderful time. So I've already started talking about this to my students. So
thank you.
I'm just looking forward to this.
Yeah, and I'm very blessed and very fortunate to have wonderful students like Vinod and Sandeep and others who have put the course together, and people like you who have allowed me to be on your show to talk about the course. So I thank you again for that.
Thank you so much.
All right, are we done for today then? Or this is good?
I was also thinking about even if I suppose we combine Parashari astrology and Gemini, do we not get more and more information? And wherever possible, we use the simultaneous equation solving method that I can also look at it from Vimshottari Dasha, and also can look at it from Chara Dasha point of view and find something, because it is surprising. Sometimes in one chart, when you said Saturn looks at the third from itself, even Parashari aspect is also the same thing on Venus. That was the Jnati Karaka there, right? So, but I also found in BPHS, some portion of Gemini Sutra is also being discussed there. So, are we to take them that they're basically two different systems, or they're just complementing each other? So, one author would have discussed both at the same time.
It's a very good question. And now I'm very clear on the fact, and people who study with me should be aware of the fact, that I don't mix the systems, meaning I don't take Parashari principles and apply them when I'm doing a Gemini style analysis, or vice versa. Because I think you end up with a very sort of mishmash of invalid things. So you keep them separate. You use them simultaneously to see periods, but when you're doing Gemini, you're using Gemini concepts, and when you're doing Parashara, you're using Parashara concepts. Now, in Parashara Hora, which was a compendium of all the astrological knowledge that existed when that came into being, there was inserted in there chapters that are related to the Gemini system. But some of the Gemini scholars feel that a lot of that information got a little corrupted, and you're better off studying what's given in the Gemini Sutras itself, which is what I've done. My book, The Essentials of Gemini, is a translation and commentary of all the sutras in the first pada. My Jewels of Gemini is a book describing a translation and commentary on all the sutras in the rest of the padas of the first chapter of the Gemini Sutras, for example. But in answer to your question, we don't want to mix the two systems, in my view, in my opinion.
So in the 4-day session, it will be out and out only the Gemini Sutra angle to the horoscope, right?
No. Remember, the title is The Art and Science of Prediction. I'm going to be teaching how to use the two systems simultaneously in order to predict accurately.
Fine.
Now,
fantastic.
If people don't have any background in Gemini, if they register for the course, I immediately send them a copy of my book, The Essentials of Gemini, which they have to study prior to the webinar to get up to speed on the basic concepts of Gemini.
Very good. You've been a great teacher, I think, because Jupiter has given you a Pancha Mahapurusha Yoga in the 7th, and you also, and Venus, the Lord of the 9th in the 9th, is a great blessing from the gurus, because 9th house is house of Guru. Yes,
this is why this is my good karma to have wonderful teachers like Kay and Rob. But it was always true. I always had wonderful teachers, so very blessed that way. This is what a good 9th house will do for you, right?
Yes, but even after gaining the knowledge, you're so eager and enthusiastic about sharing what you have acquired over the years. We wish that you live for 100 years and spread more to the rest of the world.
My goal in life is to carry on the legacy of K. N. Rao.
Very good.
That's my mission in life, to continue and carry on his legacy and to share what I learned from him with other people. All right, we'll conclude now, yes?
Yes, thank you so much. for being on my channel. And we look forward once again, a warm welcome to Chennai. So when you're in Chennai, we'll all be there to take care of you and your program and everything else. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to it. Take care. Namaste.
Namaste.